All right, so I'm presenting on black caps and migration genetics. This experiment was something I found a little bit confusing when it was presented in class, and I just wanted to give a little explanation about the experimental procedure and how that derived the conclusions that were given. All right, so the main topic, talking about black caps, migratory patterns. So what was confusing me was basically how this experiment was procedured specifically, and how that procedure actually led to the conclusion that genetics was the main factor behind the black caps' migration patterns and how that influenced the black caps. So just some background. So black caps were known historically always to migrate. They were typically found in Germany over here, and they would always typically go only to Spain in the winters. And so what was beginning to be found was that the black caps were starting to be found in England, and many people theorize it was because the birds were well fed and they were able to survive there, and it was closer. But what was the mechanism behind this as a permanent change? Were the birds happening to end up there and happening to condition themselves as a sort of nature versus nurture argument? Was this sort of a nurturing that they were taught by other birds, any sort of cues that they were supposed to go there? Or was this had this become an inherent cue that genetically that the birds were able to just know to go to England rather than Spain of those black-capped birds that would go there? So the procedure was a bit confusing to me. When I first learned about the Emlyn funnel, I was kind of confused. I wasn't really sure about how it was working, how that was proving the genetics significance of those, and why the conclusions were derived from this. And part of the thing was I was not sure if this was, say, a wild caught trap that the bird was supposedly supposed to get stuck in the cone. I was confused. I didn't know if they were just like leaving seeds or if they knew if those were the black caps in the cone specifically, or how the cone was letting them know the direction. I was confused where the bird just getting stuck in there and just like not able to leave, and they would just see them. So that was something that was really confusing me. And so some big clarifications that I looked up and made sure to know. The birds were bred in captivity, and the walls were inked. That's why in the last slide you kind of had those footprints. So the walls were inked, and the birds were bred in captivity. There was a cage. If see in the next slide, I'll go back in a second. But in the image, it was kind of unclear that they were stuck in there and that they were put in there. So you'll see that when the birds go in the direction that they want to go, I found this image really funny. The bird just kind of slips and falls on its head, but it leaves the wall inked. And so it can be measured what direction the birds were going in. Specifically, though, there was something to be clarified about offspring and the birds being in captivity. So, with offspring, you have younger, unconditioned blackbirds, blackcaps, that were not supposed to have been nurtured or having even migrated to England ever before. And so it removes those environmental conditions, nurture conditions, etc. And so you'd be able to use the parent captive bred black caps birds as sort of a control that those birds were essentially primed to go in the England direction. You would see just the prints it would leave on the cone when it was kept in there. And judging from that, you could use the offspring of those birds kept in captivity who have not made their migratory patterns before their direction. And so th those birds made that same direction that their parents were making in the emerald funnel, in the ink, without actually having been made that, migratory pattern, and so you could actually tell that the migratory pattern was genetically ingrained, and so that was part of an explanation why the birds kept going to England. Uh, is genetic influence. You could empirically measure it based off the ink on the walls and because you were controlling for the offspring. All right, and thank you so much.